get through it. And then the silver lining is just that it has to end at some point. So I hope you get to that point very soon. Managed to put out a fic, which did surprisingly well. I'm glad to hear that you're writing more. I know we talked about how you've been wanting to get back into, like, you know, pushing out projects, so I'm happy to hear that. Escow123, hello. DK, welcome. Eric, hello. Silent, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 2 months. Hey Solus. This Marge. Nice. Well, I'm glad that it, you know, it went well. Cause I don't know, sometimes when you push projects, it's like, I don't know, this is something that's gonna like work out or look good or, you know, whatever. So I hope you're proud of it. I'm glad other people responded really well to it. Sounds like a win-win. Okay, so we're starting on a couple piece, actually. Didn't know it was based off a universal monster. I didn't actually know that. Is that texture? Yeah, so I discovered, like, I really liked the look of when you put an airbrush on dissolve. It's kind of a nice texture. It's a little grating. If you zoom in, it's just like, oh god, but you zoom out, it's okay. I didn't know that it was based off of a monster movie. Although that makes sense, I guess, that it would be. And I like the look of a dirty airbrush, I really do. I've been looking to find ways to, like, incorporate textures, but yeah. I really love your work, but I never chatted. I'll be watching while I work. Of course, welcome. I'm not super big on, like, you know, wanting people to chat a bunch, because, you know, I'm also working while I'm streaming, and people here can, like, talk to me, ask me questions, but you're also free to just kind of lurk and do your own stuff and whatnot, because I'm not super high energy. A lot of the people that come to the stream aren't super high energy either, and so it's just kind of a nice place to end your week, I guess, or start your weekend if you're in a different time zone. So I'm just happy that you're here. Procrastinating, I work. Yeah, I feel that though, because I've been very unproductive this past week, which is bold, as if I have not been struggling to be productive for a while, but I definitely feel, I don't know, I feel it. Peach is here, I think. Oh no, wrong cat. A different cat is here. My roommate's cat is in my room, but Peach is elsewhere. And Gary's not here, but I will relay to him your kind and warm greetings. Yay! Dojo's always here. Because he's an excellent mod. Okay, so I don't actually know how I want to draw this. They sent me a lot of references, which is nice, but... Pavcho? I don't know how to say your name, but hello. It's interesting. Twitch is telling me when people chat for the first time. It's pretty fun. Tufa. Hey, Kawaii. Pavcho? Nice. Hey, Witch Hazel. It's so nice to see people again. I miss you guys. I always lament how I don't really have enough time to like stream. Because by the end of the week, I'm always like, oh, I wish I could have streamed more. And then by Friday, I'm always like, oh, I'm so tired. But I always want to stream because it's the only time I get to say hi to all of you. So I'm glad that this worked out. Made a root beer mint jello? Man, that's like at least 2 things that I hate wrapped up into one. I don't know what the last word was, but mint and root beer? Nasty. Thank you for taking the class. And yeah, I stream to a certain extent every week, so you can always come by, but we actually recently just announced that I'm going to be doing live feedback sessions for the class itself. So if you've purchased the class, have taken the class, and you still have access to the class page, you can sign up to join the live streams. It's going to be exclusive for people to submit their stuff, and I can take a look, provide you live feedback, do paint overs and all that stuff, and also answer questions. So if that's something you're interested in, and you've been taking the class or have taken the class before, it's open to you. So I'd say definitely check it out. But otherwise, yeah, I stream on here for a couple hours every Friday. And while I'm here, you can ask me questions. We can just talk, chat. I usually go on mini rants or ramble about some topic that someone brings up. So it's just, you know, a nice whatever you want to talk about kind of space. Although I tend to only really be able to talk about art to some capacity. So feel free to drop by whenever you want to. Okay, mint's nasty. Yes, so we are planning on having live sessions be something that happens pretty regularly. So at least every month we're going to try and schedule a live session for 2 different time zones, or not 2 different time zones, but 2 different times. So the first one is going to be one done in the evening, and the other one's going to be one done in the morning, just so that people that live in kind of like time zones that don't work with mine could potentially have 2 chances to be able to come to the session. And even if they don't make it, they'll be recorded, so you can definitely go back and watch even if you can't make it. But yes, we do plan on making them a little bit more regular. I'm sorry. The only time I've had mint, it, like, I don't know, gave me some kind of food poisoning. So I don't trust it. I just had okay, also, it's just nasty. Like, with trauma aside, it's gross. I can barely withstand mint toothpaste. To ask me to to withstand more is torture. That's like actually just straight up torture. Legally? Yeah. So, you know, it's like cinnamon, it's like chocolate, just gross, disgusting substances. And I do not want them anywhere near me. Man, ice cream is gross. Like, there's literally no way for anyone to convince me that these things are acceptable flavors. No, I'm not trying Nightwing, I don't think. I think it's someone's superhero OC. So what is your favorite ice cream flavor? I like cookies and cream. But I tend to not eat ice cream, I tend to eat sorbets because ice cream tends to make me feel really nauseous because it has cream in it. And I really struggle to have cream and not feel instantly sick. What's your take on cilantro? I have the gene which makes cilantro taste like dish soap. So I can only ever taste non-dish soap whenever I have Viet or Mexican food. I actually don't mind a lot of like different flavors of ice cream, like banana, chocolate ice cream's a little unacceptable, but I'm willing to have it if it's spiced with something else, you know? Lemon. Oh, what was that one? It's like an alcoholic drink. Daiquiri? Daiquiri? Is daiquiri an alcoholic? Yeah. I've had ice cream or sorbet that's flavored that, and it's actually really good. It's not alcoholic in the flavor, but I was pretty down for that. But I'm gonna have a hard pass on chocolate, mint, things that have nuts in them. I don't like nuts, like walnuts, almonds, peanuts, pecans. It's kind of nasty, gotta be honest. I need a full reference of this, guys. It just tastes like a refreshing leaf. I think it just has like a flavor that enhances, you know, the dish. Which I wish I could taste because I do like a lot of the food that has cilantro in it, and so like I'll still eat it, but the unmistakable scent, taste, the aroma of dish soap does not quite allow me to enjoy it as much as I wish I could. I need to like learn how to draw guys again. I feel like I haven't had to really draw like nice looking men. I've always struggled just to draw because you know I can draw a conventionally attractive girl, woman, female character, but you ask me to draw like a guy and I'm like, I can only draw the kind of like goofy, dumb looking ones. I can't draw the clearly supposed to be like heartthrob type of character. It's like it's impossible for me. So at some point I'm gonna need to learn how to do that, because I feel like it's a very useful skill. Being able to draw hot characters is as useful as being able to draw other types of variations on like features and average looking proportions, because I can't draw. I can draw muscles, okay? It's like the face proportions that I really struggle with. Thanks, Tectonic? Thank you. Can you tell what brushes are your favorite? So I use this brush when I'm painting, which is just a normal opacity brush that's squished a little bit. This one I also use for painting. It's just this shape, and I set it to direction, and opacity set to pen pressure. I've been liking this one a lot. It's one where it's like an opaque airbrush, but it's got size, and I think it's just size set to pen pressure. I've got a couple of different pencil brushes that I like. Some of them are from the Kyle default brush set, Photoshop brush set, because I think Adobe hired him to make the official one. And a couple others. This one is just I think it's a slightly textured, or maybe it's not a slightly textured, side, like diagonal squished circle. And I don't know if it has anything on it. It's got a little bit of scattering. Oh, it's got a little bit of a texture, okay. It's got scattered texture and a little bit of noise. It's a pretty nice pencil brush. How do you get that half hard, half soft brushes? In this one? This what you mean? How often do you use references? I use them when I need them. For a lot of like basic stuff, like drawing clothes or poses, I tend to not need them as much as I used to. But I use them whenever I need to use them. Cool! Thank you for the tier 1 sub for 11 months! Hello. Basically what you do is you just make a texture that's similar to this, where it's like, I think it's just like a square or a rectangle with the sides slightly faded off, and then the top slightly faded off, and then you set that to you set the angle to direction so it follows the direction of your strokes, because if you didn't and you just set it to like whatever, this is what it would look like. You have to set it to direction, and not initial direction, because this will follow your brush as it moves around. And then you want to set it to transfer so that you can get like a range of opacities. And this is great for just like knocking in shadows and slight transitions and face like form shadows and stuff like that. Really helpful, really useful. I use that to start most of my paintings. You guys are just gonna watch me struggle on like these faces for the next 3 hours. I feel like I really don't. I feel like I've forgotten how to draw faces. I don't know. Sometimes I'll be drawing and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And it's like in the form of like, should the nose be this long? Should it be shorter? I don't know. It's like I can't remember how I used to draw it. And then occasionally it'll be like, did I ever actually draw this correctly? Did I ever actually draw this in a way that I liked? Maybe not. Maybe this has just been how it's always been. A struggle. I don't know, I'm probably gonna have to learn how to draw these types of faces again at some point. Hey, Chrissy. Oh, do you guys want to see a picture of my cat being absolutely pissed at me because I put a hat on her? Because one of Gary's coworkers got Peach a little Halloween hat thing. And thank you, Sunjin. She absolutely hated it. She absolutely despised the hat. And I love Peach because she can go from looking super cute and innocent to immediately looking like she's about to murder you in your sleep. And it was so instantaneous. And she does this anytime I piss her off, really. She's just like, you know, I can't believe I've been disrespected in this way. She's got so much personality. Okay, let me grab the photos, and then I'll also show you some other photos that I've taken of her, because they're also quite cute, and they're not of her being mad at me. So they're a little bit cuter. Yeah, I take an obscene amount of pictures of Peach. I've only had, well, I guess I've had her since the end of January, and I have over 1,000 pictures of her. So, we're gonna do a little bit of show and tell because I love this girl so much. Okay, so real quick, take a look at this girl right here. So Gary's coworker got her a little apple hat, and it's got a little leaf on it. But what it is that it just sits over her ears, and she hated it so much. She hated it so much, and she was definitely pissed at me. Let me see if I can also find another one where she is just extremely, I feel like I've sent him more. An extremely pouty girl. Oh yes, here you go. She is extremely mad. So this was her with her little apple hat, but then I also have to show you some other pictures of her. So just look at her. Just look at how round she is. Look at the size. Look at this lack of a neck. You know? Look at the lack of a neck, and then how small her face is in comparison. This was her getting caught off guard because I was taking a picture of her. And then her eyes look kind of cursed sometimes in the light. But I love when she sunbathes because she never used to sunbathe. And me and my roommate have discovered that she sometimes takes habits that the other cat, my roommate's cat, sometimes exhibits. So my roommate's cat loves sunbathing. Peach never used to do it up until like a couple days ago. And she is, I don't know, she's just so cute. She was falling asleep in it, and I was like, I'm about to die of cuteness. Anyway, I love her, light of my life. Yeah, she's great. Anyway, thank you for indulging me. I love my cat. She's so cute. Luna. How are you? Wait, Cole, are you guys still doing, what is it? Tea? And ElCadejo? Are you guys still doing those runs? Colored ones are kind of like a special thing. If I do ever do them, they're gonna be like a separate kind of commission. The only colored commissions I do for stream for Twitch are headshots, and those aren't around very often. I typically just do line art because coloring takes me an obscene amount of time, and I don't even want to think about having to color. Also, I'm bad at coloring. It takes me a really long time to make it look good, so. Thanks, Xavier. Doing tea 5 days a week now because we're kind of running time. We're almost done. Nice. Yeah, so if any of you guys are Final Fantasy players or enjoy watching MMO raids or something like that, Graha Blast or Cole, he is currently doing a bunch of endgame kind of high tier rating content in Final Fantasy 14, and he just started streaming, so you guys should definitely check out his stream, and especially if he's streaming at any point while I'm streaming, he'll probably be the one I host, so you guys should go follow him and support him, because I'm gonna bully him into streaming more often, consistently, and I need all of you guys to keep him in check. These are OCs commissioned by Noblematic. Wondering, will full-colored headshots be commissioned for charity? This be changed something more palatable over time. No. So if you already ordered a headshot, like those things, that's not going to change. Regardless of how long it takes me, I will do them. It's just that I don't offer them typically outside of special purposes like charities or other things, and it's mainly upon my convenience, I guess, because I don't work on stream commissions outside of when I stream, so you know, anything that I offer will be done while I'm online, and whether or not the options to order a colored headshot is dependent on whether or not it's available at the time. gotta say, I do love whenever someone writes a phrase that gets caught by the Twitch like auto mod feature, and so it'll automatically flag it for review. And it's usually just people saying like perfectly normal things, but usually like with curse words or whatever, and Tojo has to like manually allow them into the chat. So I'll just see out of the corner of my eye, you know, this comment is blocked for review, and then I have to see Tojo add permit term bitches to the chat. It's like the wildest thing, because like, you know, it's trying to keep the chat clean, but like sometimes people just they write stuff, and all I can imagine is just Tojo, a perfectly studious person, just like quietly typing permit add. Do you ever find yourself drawing things you don't enjoy? Yes, I do. Often for jobs, you can never tell like what you're gonna be asked to do. And there was a time when I took any job that I got, because I felt like I couldn't turn things down, in the way of like, you never know what opportunity this might be, and like what if by not taking this job like so many doors close. So I had a policy of taking like basically every job. Not a great idea for a lot of reasons, but essentially at a certain point I realized like, hey, I like don't want to take this job because I don't find the premise or the request very interesting. And being able to like say no to that stuff was definitely a new milestone, I think, in my career, because I used to always be afraid of saying no to stuff. And it doesn't mean that I don't work on things nowadays that I'm still kind of like, you know, lukewarm on, but once you get that agency to just start saying no to things, it is liberating. But yeah, if you ever plan on doing art seriously or do art for work in any capacity, you will have to kind of anticipate having to work on things you're not into, and figuring out how do you get yourself to work on those types of things, because definitely sometimes gets extremely tough. It feels like pulling teeth sometimes working on projects that you don't believe in or don't care about. Yeah, I would also assume, but their costumes are pretty different. It's just impossible to showcase that through line art. But yeah, their costumes are pretty recognizably not those two. It is 100% a privilege and something that I was super afraid to, I don't know, like make a habit. Because, you know, there's still a point where I'm like, I you know, should take on work regardless, but absolutely it is something that you have to work towards, because yeah, there was a time where I had to take jobs, any job I got, regardless of how I felt about it. and that wasn't like an option. How do you get over a piece of work? How do you get over a piece of working just being something that you have to finish and not feel like it's your 120%? You still don't like it. You're gonna make a lot of those. You're gonna make a lot of pieces that you feel like, you know, this wasn't your best. You just, you know, nothing was aligning. It just doesn't feel right. Nothing's clicking. You're gonna have a lot of those, and you're just going to have to know, like, when to, like, if you're doing it for yourself, when to call it and just say, like, I'm just gonna go and move on to the next thing. Or if it's for something, just like pushing through it and just getting it done. There are so many pieces I've done that I've put out and I've, like, you know, given as in like for jobs and stuff where I'm like, this really wasn't something I'm proud of. And I just kind of have to get through it and accept that, like, not everything I make is going to be even close to my ideal. And a lot of the pieces that I've done for work are usually not my favorite pieces. And I just kind of, you know, learn to live with the idea that there's gonna be work of mine out there that I just don't like. And it's not, you know, it's like, that's fine, really, honestly. 'Cause what are the odds that, you know, every piece that you do is something that you are really into, and sometimes you just don't really have the time to make something look better. So I'd say at a certain point you kind of just have to move on, get it done, or don't get it done if it's, again, your own work, and just move on to the next thing. I honestly feel like at a certain point you have to balance between finishing work, right? And then also learning to let go of something. Because at a certain point, I have to say that having pieces, having a range of pieces, having a range of experience, that mileage is sometimes more important than making sure every drawing that you do is perfect. Because there was a point where I was always like, oh, none of this stuff is worth showing, none of this stuff I want to, like, have online, and none of this work is something that I want to show people. But then at some point I just realized, like, I don't have anything to show anyone. I don't have art that I would consider, like, I don't really have art online that I was happy and confident in, or I just didn't really get into the practice of just, like, putting stuff up for the purposes of, like, you know, getting jobs or having a portfolio or anything like that. I just wasn't doing it, and it was not great for a lot of reasons, but primarily because sometimes just having work out there and just demonstrating growth and allowing yourself to look at something you've done and just say like, okay, cool, so this is what I can do right now, and I'm obviously not happy with it, but now I know what to, move forward and keep on doing. And especially if you're trying to do like social media stuff, it's not a bad idea to have your growth visible and apparent when you post stuff, just to maintain kind of like that social activity thing, and then keep going. Sometimes that can be really helpful, and being able to like do something, say, and call it and be like, okay, this wasn't working, but I have things that I've learned from this one. I'm gonna bring all those lessons to the next one, because some pieces just aren't gonna work out even if you try really hard to save them. This isn't to say like don't like try to save anything, or like spend a little bit more time on stuff, because quality is still very important, and sometimes you can save something if you just give it enough time. But you should really only do that for things that you really care about or really want to take that time on, because ideally, realistically, you're gonna be making so many drawings in your life that some of them are just not gonna make it, and that's okay. Do you think art school is worth it? Depends on who you are. Depends on your financial situation. If you're someone who wants to work overseas, or wants to go to wants to teach art, for example, if you want to again get a visa and stuff like that, school is very important. If you are someone who thrives being in environments that are surrounded by creative people, if you want to like be in that space and be able to kind of live the college life of having a safe environment for you to grow up in, I'd say college is actually really, really good for those types of people. And I say that as someone who I felt like really benefited from college, because it allowed me to finish that last bit of growing that I needed to do in order to, I think, feel fully independent. That is also being said, I didn't finish college. And, I think that's a choice that you can make regardless. But, if you feel like you can do it yourself, you don't really have either the financial means to go to an established art school, you don't really have the, like, physical means of being able to travel to an international school, or don't really feel the need to be going to certain schools, then there are plenty of online courses that are, delivering very similar, if not more diverse, like types of information about a variety of jobs, about all things in terms of professional industry. And those can easily get you started and get you into places that would actually be, the most helpful, which is on the job. There's quite a few things you don't really learn when you're just kind of learning in a classroom setting, or even learning from like videos and video courses, especially if you wanted to go into an industry like games. But there's a lot of options out there, and I'd say if you're someone that needs an environment, that wants to meet teachers, that would benefit from having like a time in your life dedicated to just like focusing on this one thing, and you're away from home and stuff, college is a really good way to kind of segment that part of your life. Granted, you have to pick the right college for you, one that you can afford, but there are alternatives, and those aren't necessarily compromises on your future if you do them and you dedicate yourself to them. I've found that there are quite a few people that have gone through those types of courses and ended up in the same places as college, like typical college 4-year college students. It's not, you shouldn't think about it in terms of like, is one better than the other, or one offering a more more productive experience than the other. It's just a matter of different ways of learning and different needs and fulfilling different situations, I guess. What do you think about posting sketches? I do a lot of sketching, but I rarely feel like putting effort to polish a piece. Sketches are not a bad idea. And especially, you know, if you want to, like, from a professional perspective, right? There's two different types. From a professional perspective, sketches are actually really good, especially if you're going into a more kind of pre-production field or a production type field, because sketches show people how you think, what your kind of like style is for figuring out problems, and it's just kind of a good thing to know about someone you're gonna potentially hire onto your team, because sketches are mainly what you're gonna be looking at. You know, given the fact that there are certain industries which kind of are primarily not focused on rendering or finished work, sketches can actually be a really good like portfolio asset. When it comes to like hobbyists and stuff, I think sketches are just really fun. It's again in the vein of like, you know, have a part of your like online art process just be you figuring things out, and sketches are a great way to show that. There's not really a reason to just like wait until you post the right or have the right thing to post, or wait until you can show off the nice painted piece that you only do every 3 years. If you primarily do sketches, like, post the things that you primarily draw, because in a way it's a lot more authentic to who you are. Generally, you know, you might find people actually really like the quality and the feeling of your sketches more so than your actual illustrations. There are artists that I know who are amazing, fantastic draftsmen, fantastic artists, but a lot of their best work is in the sketches that they do. And these are people that have worked in, you know, AAA companies. You ask them to paint something or polish something, and it just doesn't feel the same. And that's not a bad thing, because it just means that their strengths lie somewhere else outside of polishing, which is totally fine. You have an entire, like, subgenre of artists, illustrators namely, who will go in and do all that for you. But, you know, I think it's always good to post a variety of things, especially if you find yourself drawing a certain variety of things. It's always just good to be, you know, post what is most authentic to you. How come you didn't finish? No, it's totally okay. I didn't finish because of a couple different reasons. One was financial. It was kind of a strain for us to really afford college. My mom worked her hardest to make sure I could get through college and have like a really good education, but I was at a point where I wasn't feeling like I was getting anything more out of my education. I had taken all the classes with the teachers that I really wanted to take classes with. I was starting to kind of not need or really feel like the homework was helping me, and at the same time I was already working contracts for the jobs that these homework assignments were trying to get for me. So it was a culmination of things. I was working with Valve at the time on their Dota 2 Battle Pass, and so at that point it was starting to get in the way of working on that to do homework. And so just a bunch of these factors kind of came up, and I felt like of any time that I would have felt comfortable leaving school because I had thought about it for a while, it was that moment where I was just finishing, I think, my second year as I was like second semester as a junior. So I was about to be a senior, but that would have still meant another 2 or 3 semesters. And it just didn't feel worth it. So I made the decision to take a leave of absence for a little bit, but that by the December of the same year, because I left in May of 2020, by December of that year, I got my first full-time position, and then it just didn't feel like it made sense to go back to school. So that was why I ultimately decided to leave. It was a combination of financial, and just kind of like creative, I guess, like reasons. And that being said, though, I do still really enjoy, or I enjoyed my time at my school. And I do not regret going to school. I do not think it was a waste of money or time. Maybe except for SCAD, but I feel like I did some growing at SCAD that gave me the right motivation to then, you know, transfer schools, go to ElCAD, and you know, do the rest of my I don't know, evolution into the person I am today, I guess. I get messages about commissions from time to time. I don't advertise, and I feel like it would be a good opportunity to take them, start advertising, and take commissions. At the same time, I feel that I could be better spending my time doing personal art to further my art skills and work towards career aspirations. I do background layout, full-time animation, and kind of torn between how to spend my time to progress my art career. Okay, so, yes, this is the dilemma, right? I'd say you're in a very particular position, seeing as you already work full-time. I'd say commissions are a good way to kind of get your name out there if you are doing commissions for studios, indie things, like not just personal commissions. If you want to be growing like a like following online, or you want to like kickstart some kind of rapport with other, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like other people in your field, like studios and other stuff like that. Like that's why I still do contracts, is because I'm still trying to foster like connections with other companies, other people, recruiters, artists, art directors, stuff like that. So I still work contract in my free time outside of my full-time job. But that's like a personal thing, right? I chose to do that. If you don't feel the need to do that right now, I honestly wouldn't really recommend dividing your free time and just to do commissions for, you know, people personally, unless you really want to do it, because yes, you can't, it's tough, you can do it, but it's really tough to really think in this way. You stagnate a lot, you tend to stagnate a lot when you start picking up commissions and doing freelance work. It's really hard to develop like a good sense of self while you're working, and that kind of prevents you from really making the same kind of progress that you would if you were just kind of working on your own in your free time. This is why it's really hard to grow while you're in school if all you're doing is schoolwork all the time. It's why it's really hard for people who are working full-time to get any sort of you know, moment to themselves to really develop their own craft. And that's why teachers will sometimes take a break from teaching, especially, you know, people at Brainstorm and stuff, if they feel like they just haven't had enough time to really intake any information while they were expelling information for, you know, their students. So I'd say it depends on what's important to you. I tend to only take contracts with people that I feel like, or with studios and you know, opportunities that I feel like I personally want to take, or that I feel like are really helpful for my career. Otherwise, I don't do personal commissions outside of Twitch itself, because it's just kind of something I only do on stream, and so I can separate that time from personal time. Otherwise, I honestly feel like if you feel relatively set in your career and you don't really feel a need to you know, be, I don't know, I guess like developing more professionally, then you don't have to do it. Tis fine. Have I mentioned how much I hate drawing butts? I really do. Ugh. What are your thoughts on toxic art communities? I'm not good at communicating with people, so I'm not in one, but I got really scared of doing art for it because a period of time on YouTube, artists were trying to drag. Claiming that they copy someone else's art, but they okay, so I feel like I've had this discussion about like art communities with people recently, actually, and my views on this have really kind of evolved with a lot of those conversations, and so here's kind of like, I guess, a hot take. The art community is sort of just a blanket term for your little section of the internet. The section of the internet that is created by the people that you follow, the friends that you have, all this stuff. The art community itself is not monolithic. There isn't anyone defining like how the art community feels, what the unspoken rules are necessarily. It's all just a matter of who is in that little section of the internet that you populate or you find yourself in. And so in all these different social media apps and all these different forums or groups of people, you have subsections in terms of like how people act, how people feel about things, people's opinions. And it's usually, you know, for a lot of people, the kind of bigger accounts within those spaces that define for them what the rules are. I'd say there are some that are just kind of generally unspoken, like, you know, the basic ones: don't steal people's art, don't misrepresent other people, don't be a dick, that kind of thing. But I'd say art YouTube is not really the same thing as art communities elsewhere, because those commentary channels tend to, and I know exactly what you're talking about, those commentary channels tend to not really be like focused on art themselves, and they're more focused on the people that they're talking about. And so I would argue that, you know, you'd find other types of people elsewhere depending on where you look. And if you find those people extremely toxic, then maybe art YouTube is not really the place for you. There's also Instagram and Twitter, there's forums, there's DeviantArt, there's Tumblr. There's a lot of other places still that have, there's ArtStation, for example. The ArtStation is kind of weird. There's even Facebook if you really wanted to. Like there's a ton of different types of communities sprouting everywhere that it's not monolithic. But I will say, like, I also don't really enjoy communities nearly as much as I used to, and I think it just might be a personal thing. Like, I've grown up to a point where the person I am now doesn't really benefit from being a part of those groups. And I think it's okay to just not be a part of a group that you don't share beliefs with. Because, you know, there's a lot of morally gray areas in terms of how far are you willing to go, or how much of this, I guess, like, system or unspoken rules set do you agree with. And who you agree with, who you don't agree with, will determine, like, what part of that subgenre or community really resonates with you. I would say don't push yourself to be a part of anything that you don't really feel is faithfully representing your own personal opinions or is populated by people you trust or admire or respect. There's really no reason to do that, because at no point are you really in or out of the community beyond just like not participating in their conversations, because no one person or one group of people represents the community at large. So what are my thoughts on toxic art communities? They suck, because toxic people suck, toxic environments suck, and to be a part of them is to constantly submerge yourself in a culture that is inherently harmful to you, because it doesn't feel good. And if you find those places toxic, which some people might not agree with you in that respect, if you find them toxic, the best thing you can do is to remove yourself from the situation. Not to have an opinion on, you know, whether those places are good or whatnot. You don't have to have those opinions. You can just say, hey, this place doesn't feel very comfort for me. I'm just gonna go somewhere else, and that is perfectly fine. You don't have to follow all of the artists that everyone else follows. You don't have to be a part of all the communities that everyone else is a part of. You just kind of have to do what is good and healthy for you. And if you're like me and you just kind of don't really care about being a part of any particular group, and you just like art, then you're free to join me in the milky void of I just follow artists and I don't talk to anyone. Or, you know, like, I sometimes just scroll through Twitter and talk to, like, 5 people on my private Twitter. I haven't been on Instagram or main Twitter actively for, like, over 6 months at this point, and my life is so much better than it was when I was actively going on those apps and actively talking to people or actively, like, I don't know, just interacting with that space. I barely go on those nowadays. I use my phone maybe about 12 minutes per day, because otherwise, like, all the things that I want to look at, I can look at on my computer, like Instagram occasionally. Usually Gary's, my partner, sends me stuff. Cat videos mainly. Twitter to talk to my friends. I sometimes go on ArtStation, but if I really like an artist, I usually own a book of theirs if they have art books. So I don't really need to interface with places that I personally find very toxic, and I would encourage you to find a similar balance for that as well. Well, how do you approach coloring when you're doing cell shading type rendering? Like what to add and what to leave flat color? Good question. Cell shading is pretty difficult, and I am not really someone who is the best at it. I struggle with it quite a bit. But I wonder if I have any art. I guess the one I did for Horangi counts. Okay. When it comes to cell shading, a lot of it is really just dependent on like how much shading do you want to do. Sometimes like this character, like this version of her, there's barely any shading on her actual skin because I just figured it looked better as a flat shaded thing. But then sometimes with some of these other ones, like I wanted to emphasize how much her back was kind of curved outwards as opposed to her waist, so I put her waist in shadow and her arm in shadow to show that this was kind of the underside of it, but this arm barely has any shading on it at all. So cell shading is very difficult because there's a fine balance to hit. You can overshade it or undershade it, and I'd say my best advice would just be to look at some of your favorite artists and see how they cell shade, because everyone has a different way that they choose to shade every piece. And if you want to have kind of like a more bright, almost overexposed look, shading less and only going for those really kind of turned away planes is going to be your best bet. So things that are clearly on the other side of her body, or things immediately underneath, like things that would cast a shadow, like this pipe or under her belt. Those things are the things that I would shade for this character in particular. For her, you know, I wanted to emphasize this kind of like the arms and her face and her legs, but I didn't really want to emphasize anything near her midsection, so I put everything there in shadow because that was kind of the most clean shape that I could make in terms of how I would lay down the cast shadows and the form shadows for that. Typically what you just want to do is to define the either core or mid-tone or mid-shadow. What are they called? And then the kind of areas and light, areas and shadow. Those are the two things you only have to work with unless you add other tones. So you really just kind of have to play around with it. Add shapes in where you feel like they need it. You don't have to stick too closely to like, if this was lit by, you know, mathematical light, how would these would this be in light or in shadow, depending on like the angles and stuff. You don't have to be too technical with it, but you can make executive choices like, hey, I just kind of want to put a light shape here because why not? Technically her face would have shading on it, but I was very particular about not wanting to put too many shadows on her face because I didn't want to over render it. Things like her collarbone, her deltoids, like all these things should also have shadows on them, but I chose not to put them there because I didn't want to. I felt like they didn't work. Likewise, you know, her legs have plenty of things that probably would need a shadow, but I just put some light shapes in there, like these highlights, because I thought they looked better. So, you know, I think ultimately cel shading is just a culmination of choices that you have to sort of push and play until you reach a consensus on what's your preferred kind of habit when it comes to cel shading. Because I'm still kind of working on it. I don't really know what my preference is, but generally, you know, I like things that are slightly simpler as opposed to complex, so I try to sort of simplify where I place my shadows, where I place my highlights, and stuff like that. And that changes how I would do it versus how someone else would color the same thing. So I'd recommend looking at some of your favorite artists and just seeing, you know, what decisions they make and figure out if, you know, you would agree with that choice. Do you think that putting a highlight there or the shadow there looks better versus, you know, if you tried something else? And then just give it a shot. Because honestly, it takes me so long to cel shade something and have me like it, as opposed to just painting the whole thing. And it makes no sense because you'd think that cel shading would be so much faster, but for me, it takes me absolutely ages to decide on what I want. So there are definitely better people out there to ask than me. Do you mind giving some insight on your journey of growing social media? I think I've started kind of at a weird time with social media where when I started, like, no one was really trying to have like a social media presence. It was kind of just a lot of us were kids doing social media for fun. Like, we were all in college or high school or something like that, or we were like adults but they weren't doing social media to like have a platform. Because I started social media back in 2010, 2011. Started Instagram around like 2013, 2014. So it was definitely a different time at that point. It wasn't very common to like have a social media account for art. But I honestly didn't really try to grow one in the way that, like, I don't think I really diversified as much as you should, but I kind of just stayed. I tried to be relatively active, and at the time I was in high school, so I had a lot of time to draw. I posted about like once or twice every day, pretty much. I would respond to people in the comments. I would be really active in other people's comments, and I'd basically just be around quite often. I'd always be posting, I'd always be commenting, and I was just really I was someone that was just, I guess, approachable at the time. And, you know, as you get to know more people around your like social sphere, as you start building friendships with people that you talk to really frequently, and as people start to like see your art grow and develop, and they start to enjoy it for aesthetic reasons, you know, then you start building it that way. I'd say with art, there are a couple things that really make someone that you want to follow. It's either the kind of content that they make, their personality, or their personal, like, creative style. When it comes to content, it could be like they make shit posts or memes, or they make comics or animations or educational content, stuff that really draws you towards their content in particular. And then when it comes to their personality, it's how they respond to people, it's their sense of humor, it's their kind of like I don't know, just like general atmosphere and vibe. Because, you know, there was a point where I think some people saw me as really intimidating, and that was also during a time when I was trying to like act more mature. I was like, what, 16, 17, so my art looked kind of dark and it was very like a little bit more mature. And then, you know, now I draw myself like a little tiny kid witch or whatever, and I play lo-fi music, and I, you know, do whatever. So I have a different feel now, a different vibe, and that draws a different kind of person to my stuff. And then it's creative style. It's the stuff that you make, how you make them. It's your kind of like visual style. It's the kind of content in terms of, do you have a really strong aesthetic? Do you draw certain fan arts? Do you have a very particular like taste when it comes to the style of your content? So it's like the difference between people who do like bullet journaling and all these nice like minimalist color schemes and stuff versus someone who almost explicitly does like darker gothic. They're like whole personalities around like Halloween and October and like fall. So different, I guess, like atmospheres, creative visual styles. Are you more of an abstract person? Are you more of a cute person? Do you draw like darker themes, more mature themes? Do you draw like horny art versus super cute and innocent art? All of those factors come together to kind of basically define what your brand is. And depending on what your brand and how strong your brand is and how much people kind of align themselves with that vision, those are the people that are going to follow you for, as long as you have that brand that they like. And that kind of stuff evolves, but essentially, like, that's kind of how I think people with really strong social media presences tend to thrive, is when people that follow them know what to expect. They can kind of be confident in knowing that if they follow this person, they're going to get more of that content that they really like. And that has a whole host of implications that I'm not going to get into, but when it comes to growing a social media presence, it's understanding where your boundaries lie when it comes to that kind of stuff. Are you going to really look at it from a business perspective? In which case, yeah, you have to kind of think of your art as a product, as a commodity, and you have to be willing to look at trends and, follow bandwagons and do all that stuff so that you have, because you treat your social media presence like a business. When I was growing it, I didn't think about it that way, and I very rarely, if any, actually I don't think I ever have really taken any like sponsorship stuff, and even now I turn all of them down because I don't really want to do them. Most often none of them are in the camp of what I would actually consider doing a sponsorship for, because I don't really want to commodify my online presence because I don't view it as a business. And that's a personal choice that I have. But that also means that I sacrifice a lot of other utility when it comes to my social media platform. And that's a certain type of content, right? So the people that follow me for what I do are here because they, either like my personality, which I don't see how you could. No, I'm kidding. They like the vibe that I have, and a lot of my current atmosphere is defined by my streams most often now. And or they like watching my art grow and evolve. So, a long-winded way of saying, I don't feel like I did anything special, but I do understand that I think a lot of my growth personally came from people liking specifically just my overall journey, people that thought that the kind of content that I specifically made matched their tastes. And the fact that I wasn't too consistent with anything like that means that I don't think I really took advantage of what that could be, also because I don't really care. But if you're looking to grow your platform, you have to consider all of these factors, and you have to think about, what do you want to use this platform for? Because that will definitely change how you go about it. Do you do sponsorships? Do you, try to join all these bandwagons? Do you do fan art, even if you aren't necessarily like into doing fan art? Are you a natural fan artist? In which case, what kinds of things do you draw? Are you sort of a the artist that would only pick one thing and then just run with that for years, or the kind that jumps from fandom to fandom as soon as it's popular. You know, all those types of things are decisions you have to make while you're growing that platform, depending on how you view it. So yes, before I launch into another tangent, there you go. Catching up. How valuable do you think Twitter is for growing a social media presence? Because personally, I don't like using social media that much. Don't actively participate. I mean, it is about as useful as any other social media that you would actively use. If you don't feel yourself using Twitter, then don't use Twitter. Different people gravitate towards different social medias, and if you don't feel like one fits you or matches your needs in terms of like, you know, engagement or personality type, then just don't do it. Like, obviously, you know, that's a whole host of people you're missing out on in terms of marketing your art towards, but ultimately, like, if you're gonna hate using the platform and you don't I don't know, like the people that are on it, and you're also not much of a social media person, then just don't use it. Is it Australia friendly? That's good. I don't really know when is a good time to stream, so I kind of just stream whenever is most convenient for me to not have to like rush around and do, you know, a lot of like schedule shuffling, and also because I work. So I'm glad that it ends up being convenient for some people, because I know it's definitely not convenient for some of the people that used to come to my streams when I was in school. And I'd stream from like 10 to like 2 a.m. or something. My foot too big. I can't tell. It is currently 8:36 p.m. I'm always surprised by who comes by. Me being a filthy American, I always think that most of the people that watch me are from America, so it's always really cool when people tell me like, oh yeah, I'm from like France or England or India, or, you know, I'm watching from Asia, and it's like, whoa, like there are actually people from like all across that watch me. That's crazy. Have I drawn my aura yet? No, I haven't. I think because I'm still holding on to like, this isn't my character, I don't want to immortalize her, but like she's really stinking cute, so. What do you think a person's art level should be to get into the industry? Because I'm in my last year of college and I still don't feel confident enough in myself. Also, your art has been a great inspiration for art, so I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm glad that it could be something meaningful to you. When it comes to a person's art level in the to get into the industry, honestly, it's a lot more, I think, varied than you might think. There's a lot of different projects out there, a lot of different needs, creative needs, and a lot of different types of, I don't know, just like types of teams. And so it's really hard to say like, oh, you should be at a certain level to work in the industry, because certain places have certain requirements, and you know, depending on your level, you might not qualify for a AAA project or one made by a lot of like industry veterans, but you might qualify for something that is made by an indie studio, or a passion project, or even a mid-tier studio in comparison. It ultimately is just kind of a matter of trial and error. I'd say personally, my recommendation if you're getting into games in particular, or concept in particular, is at least in your portfolio and just in general, you should be I guess at a point where you're confident or comfortable, at least drawing a variety of things, at least in your focus. So if you're doing environment, you should be comfortable doing compositional study or compositions. You should be confident knowing how to diversify across all different types of architecture. You should be able to do exploded versions, or at least be familiar with doing exploded versions of props, and be able to do a wide variety of seasons, lighting scenarios. You're comfortable with drawing a bunch of different types of environments, from very organic and natural to fantastical to realistic to predominantly buildings and infrastructure to vast vistas where it's mostly like desert or mountainous or forest and stuff like that. If you're doing character, being able to draw a variety of body types, being able to do a variety of facial features, being comfortable drawing not just hot and attractive people, but average looking to even potentially not pretty looking people, being able to draw a variety of poses, or at least confident enough to do the research required to draw a variety of poses, expressions, costumes, and building your comfort level, being able to draw anything that you're asked to do, because you can never be certain when you're good enough for X person. You never know that. But at the very least, these are the things that you can aim to be able to do, so that in the event someone ever does come across your work, they ever do come across your portfolio or your website or social media, you can demonstrate an active, growing understanding of the various needs and responsibilities you'll have when you're working in the industry. So, there's a whole breadth and variety when it comes to the types of projects that we work on, that you could potentially be working as soon as you graduate, or you could potentially not be able to find something for a while. And I think it has less to do with where you are when you graduate, and more to do where you are every single moment as you grow from, point A to point B, as you continue to improve. Because, while you're waiting to be accepted for a job, be accepted for a contract, while you're waiting to be contacted by someone, you shouldn't be at a point just assuming that this is just your skill level, and you just kind of have to hope that someone's going to pick you up. Just keep moving and improving regardless of where you're at when you graduate. I think there's sometimes a weird pressure that colleges can put on you, where they always talk about getting hired right out of graduation. They have job fairs and stuff like that all the time to make you feel like, oh, if I don't get a job right when I graduate, that means all the work I did at school is for nothing. It's not for nothing. And if you need more time to find a job or to get work after school, that's fine. I don't think it really means much for someone like me to say what level should you be at to get a job, because at any given point, any of your skills could come into play. Any of your skills could be lacking in any way to prevent you from getting a job, or potentially getting you that job. Working towards specific goal traits and goal skill sets to have, I think, is a lot more productive. So if you have a very particular job you're trying to go for, that I'm familiar with, I can tell you what I would personally expect out of a professional, but that isn't necessarily something that you have to be coming out of college, if that makes any sense. I think, I forgot his mask. That's why I forgot. I don't know if I missed any other details, which I should probably check. This cape, I need to learn cloth physics again. I need to go back to the drawing board about cloth physics. I need to learn how to draw cloth. We're fine. Okay. I'm going to save this. Twitch quests. Okay. We are going to go back. Yeah, so character design is very particular, right? And I will get up and stretch right now. Character design is a very particular kind of subset of the design genre, and I say that in character design, there's such a bigger variety than people think as far as like what are acceptable skill levels. And like, I feel like you might be surprised at how like not everyone working in the industry, in any professional industry, is at the level of like potentially your favorite artists on social media. There are definitely star players within each kind of group, but those star players cannot make up the predominant population of people working. Most people are working with like pretty, you know, like tools that you might already have and be working at a skill level because they know how to apply their art, and that's the more important part. Being able to apply your skills as opposed to just like being able to draw pretty pictures is far more important, and especially in design roles, than it is to be a fantastic, amazing, great artist. It's like you can make nice looking art, and that's usually what's popular on social media, but especially for production artists, like concept artists, character designers, stuff like that, there are different things that are a lot more important. One of them being able to draw a variety of body types. I think in general, social media's perception of what concept artists and industry artists do is extremely warped, and that in turn feeds back into what those industry professionals think people want. It's very common to just draw nice looking characters, attractive looking characters, because yes, those sell. But at the same time, if artists go into an industry not having developed the skill sets to counteract what is the current status quo of that industry, at no point will we ever be seeing games that are populated by characters that have a variety of body types, a variety of identities, ethnicities, any of those things. So as artists going into an industry, it's our responsibility to be better than the content that we've grown up with, to not just be a derivative of those things. And so what does that require of you? That requires a personal interest and a drive to be drawing a variety of body types, a variety of characters with different backstories, and how does that represent them? Or how do those histories and backstories represent themselves in a character? Being interested in doing research, even if you yourself are not incredibly learned or incredibly worldly from the get-go. If you're willing to do research into different cultures, if you're willing to do the legwork required to teach yourself what all of these like different cultures, different time periods, anything from science to physics to, you know, all these things, this interest makes you a better concept artist, a better character designer than someone who can draw well, right? Because What's more important is the design. We're not illustrators, we're not just draftsmen, we are designers. And so that requires a completely different skill set that, someone who just draws nicely is not going to be able to have. It makes you more valuable as a designer to be able to be interested in those things and to strive to do those things. Not only that, I think personally being versatile as an artist is a lot more important. And sorry I'm not drawing because I'm not able to speak and draw eloquently at the same time. So quickly, just to wrap this up, being versatile as an artist and being willing to learn as an artist is far more valuable to concept, to character design, to anything in regards to design. And to me personally, that is my hallmark for when I think an artist is good or is promising. If I see an artist willing to expand their own horizons, see an artist that is willing to try out different things, go in a variety of directions, be willing to test a range of styles, a range of kind of like spectrums of design. So they go into the kind of weird avant-garde almost, and then they also try out doing realism and stuff like that. That variety is so much more, I think, impactful and useful and so much more helpful in a designer than it is to know that this person can draw a hot girl in like a t-shirt, right? And so if you're going into character design, that would kind of be my push to you. Good character designers are ones that are invested in their characters beyond just the aesthetics. They are interested in what this character has to give to a show or a story. They're interested in this character's role in a story. And it's more than just having a cool weapon or having a cool costume. It's more than just them being goth or being preppy or whatever. All the aspects of their costume, mundane to fantastical, have a reason to be there. To be able to traverse this spectrum of really, functionally designed world building, to be able to bring all of these elements in, similar to something like Lord of the Rings, where everything on the character has a reason to be there because it's sourced from some kind of culture, world building aspect, storytelling aspect, versus, a character from like a Cartoon Network show that is just wearing t-shirt and jeans, but that makes perfect sense for who they are in the context of that show. Being able to do a range of that, going from something that's very, just we have to be able to do this from a technical perspective and this character is not all that crazy or interesting, versus being able to go into really deep and being able to design something in a way that has a lot of depth to them. That is an incredibly valuable skill set to have as an artist, as a character designer. And I'm far more interested in seeing more people with those skill sets in the industry versus people that just know how to draw hot girls that look like League of Legends characters. Anyways, I'm done with that rant. It's over. I'm gonna hydrate. We're fine. And I'm gonna scroll back up to see what people are talking about. Okay. Bye, Skywalker. Thank you for coming. Hope to catch your next stream. Take care of yourself. See you later. What are your thoughts on artists who get exploited? I meant to ask about artist exploitation on social media because the status quo. You said people in a pretty hard face to face first after service and then serve. I mean, those are a couple different problems that you're talking about. I'd say that for a lot of people outside of creative industries, art is not really something that they value beyond just kind of like, oh yeah, nice art. They don't really think about the kind of value that goes into one, because to them, like, art isn't something that they see real people doing and they've never experienced putting themselves into a piece of art. It's really abstract for them. So I think there's a range of wait. Tojo, do you know if this one is 2 drawings or just 2 people? I think it's just 1 drawing. But I move on to the next one though. When it comes to, I guess, like in terms of artists kind of getting shoehorned into drawing like only acceptable pieces of art, I think it's unfortunate. The only way that you can really combat anything in terms of the status quo is just to have and encourage more people to have like a more evolved sense, to make more art against that status quo. So the more like younger generations of artists that you can encourage to kind of be more than just people that draw nice characters or pretty characters, the closer we will be to getting characters in popular media, in professional media, that challenges classic tired tropes of what these things could potentially be. But you kind of wrapped a couple of different problems into the same thing, so I'm not exactly sure if I answered what you were asking. Did you fiddle with your brush settings yourself or use pre-created brushes? I want to learn how to make the right kind of liner brush, but I don't know where to start. I have done a combination of the two. I feel like I have a working knowledge of how brushes are made, that I can kind of fiddle with things and know what kind of qualities I want. But I have a I guess like a hobby, which is not a very interesting hobby, of collecting brushes from artists. I love paying for brushes. I love getting new brushes and testing them out because I feel like brushes really give you a new, like, kind of fresh feeling of drawing in a certain program. So I have collected and amassed a very big collection of Photoshop brushes that I very rarely use, but I like having them anyway. So I would recommend, like, you can use just free brush resources that you find online, but get into them and look at how they're made and look at what kind of settings they have and try to fiddle around with ones that you make yourself, because once you learn how to make them yourself, you can do anything with them. And I've seen some pretty amazing brushes out there that people have made. I by no means consider myself someone who is able to make good brushes, but I have edited ones to fit my needs. So that is a skill that I have given the need or circumstance. But yeah, I use a mixture of ones that are pre-made to ones that I have personally made. Wait, what? I'm confused. Okay. Sorry, I got extremely heated with, with the character design question. I literally feel like my heart racing because I got so like into it that I was like, I don't know. I think I channeled some weird mini rant that I've been boiling inside. That's been cooking for a hot minute. Wow. I like feel out of breath. No, I'm good. Probably won't go on another mini rant for a while, but yes. I think I'm just having a lot of thoughts about it because I've had to think about like kind of what I would look for in a character concept, character designer, artist, and like what I value in those, because I've had to do a couple of I don't know, just like I've had to have an opinion on it recently, and yeah, I just realized like the kind of lack of people that are interested in the same things, and I would like to see more people invested in kind of like a, I don't know, a new evolution on what is currently the character designs that are currently coming out, or just in general like design habits that are popular right now, like especially on social media and people that follow a lot of artists, and like anyone can make a character design. You just have to type character design and suddenly it is, which is cool. But when it comes to production, there's a variety of skills that I wish more people had, because it would make their job a lot easier in the long run. But it's okay. There's a variety of places and positions and stuff for people, and just because they don't necessarily think about design the way that I do does not necessarily mean that, you know, they'll have to struggle more. But I don't know, I want to meet more designers that put, I guess, a little bit more thought into their designs versus just like hot face, because why not? How do you increase your visual library of fantasy clothing? Well, that's the thing, right? Is that nothing that we create as humans is sourced from things that we haven't already seen. That's just kind of how things are. We are always usually just exaggerating, exemplifying, or sourcing from something that already exists. we're basically just remixing stuff. And that isn't necessarily to say that we're always like, stealing and there's no original idea. It's just that originality comes from coming with a new mixture of different inspirations. And so when it comes to fantasy clothing, you have to think about what are you trying to source when it comes to your fantasy? Because every type of fantasy comes from something, whether that is Western fantasy, so stuff that sources itself from Western ideas such as knights, European folklore, European mythology, that includes class structures, that includes social hierarchies, that includes culture and stuff like that. That makes it and codes it in a way that would take things and elements from Western fantasy. There's Middle Eastern fantasy, Asian fantasy, and that's just cultural stuff. After that, you have to think about okay, well, how grounded is it, right? Is it like these are all pieces that a cosplayer could make? Okay, well then that changes what materials you have available to you. Or are you making a fantasy that's a little bit more absurd or more abstract? In which case, you're looking at designs for things that are an amalgamation of non-contextualized objects. So, rather than sourcing armor from armor that actually exists or extant armor pieces, because there are ways that armor has to be crafted in order to be functional, you could source and call something armor when it's based off of something that is like architecture or insects or fungi or something like that, and it doesn't actually have to look very functional at all. So when you talk about how do you find references for fantasy clothing, or how do you build a visual library for fantasy clothing, it's about building a library for anything. It's about looking at different types of fashion, from haute couture to avant-garde styles, to different historical cultural wear, to different eras of warfare, to having an interest in looking at bugs and insects and nature, to architecture, to how objects are made, to the styles and visual eras of certain trends and certain movements, artistic movements. All of these things can feed into your designs for fantastical clothing. You just have to define for yourself, what kind of visual library do you need for every project. And then the things that you need to draw on will change. So canvas sizes and resolutions. So I always work at 300 dpi and nothing under that, because at 300 dpi, that's what you print digital files at. And so if you work at a 300 dpi resolution and you make art at any given canvas size, then you can kind of be able to say, okay, so if I were to print this would be this size. I typically draw at 11 by 17, so if I were to print any of the drawings that I make, they would be perfectly clean and clear, and as I drew them at the size 11 by 17, they'd get blurry and out of focus if I printed them at a higher canvas size, and they would be, sharper or whatever if I printed them at a smaller canvas size. 72 dpi is what people typically have for digital files, so photos and JPEGs and stuff like that on the internet often are 72 dpi, and that works on a computer, doesn't work nearly as well when you print them. People only go higher for other types of reasons, often for if they really want to have a super high quality print. or, you know, they have a file that needs to be able to be printed at multiple resolutions, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't really worry about going at a higher resolution. I kind of only think about 300 dpi is my base, and that's all I really need to think about as an artist. When it comes to canvas sizes, I typically recommend not going below 4K by like 3K. I think I typically work at, and this is pixels, I typically work at 11 by 17 or higher. Recently I've been working at 30 inches by 30 inches at 300 dpi because I threw a hissy fit and I'm now just making everything 30 inches by 30 inches. But I typically draw 11 by 17, which is normal size for like a printed poster. And that is usually high enough resolution for me. And I don't recommend going below that when it comes to digital files, because I think it's a good resolution in the event that you would want to print something. And if you don't, then it's just a good high quality file. It's big enough to get cropped and zoomed in, and it won't necessarily, you know, degrade nearly as fast as if you drew something at a smaller size. Does this person have claws? I can't tell. I think they do. My engineer, my lead engineer always gets mad at me because he's like, I have to somehow like fit this giant file on our servers. But for artists, I think drawing bigger is always better. It saves you a lot of headache when you randomly get someone who's like, hey, I want to print this. Can I get the original file so I can print it like on a shirt or on a, you know, whatever? It's like, oh wow, I wish I drew it bigger then. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever had to feel the pain of up-resing an art that was not drawn at like a higher resolution, but it is not worth it. I do not recommend it. Just draw your stuff at a bigger size. Bye, creative. Yeah, that's kind of why I can't use iPads and stuff for like work, because I need to draw things at a higher resolution, and I don't want to have to fight the program for it, so that's why I personally think that investing in a computer and a tablet when you can is just so much better than forcing yourself to work on a iPad, especially once you start getting into like professional work, because I have files that are 200 plus layers at times, and those I cannot imagine working on an iPad for. I will hydrate. Because Adobe is going to milk all of us of all of our money for as long as they can with extremely obscure subscription rules. Like, I had to pay to cancel my a plan that I had with them, I think for like Adobe Reader, because I realized it was, or Acrobat, because I realized it was bundled with another thing that I could have bought for more programs, and it made me pay to cancel the thing so I could spend more money to get the other plan. And that's when I just found a free alternative version of Adobe Acrobat in a different PDF reader, because fuck you, Adobe. What's your recommendation for how to get into art as a career path? Depends on the kind of art you want to do, which I think is news to a lot of new artists. There are a lot of different potential career paths as an artist, and depending on where you want to go and work, if you want to get into industry, if you want to do a small business, if you want to, be a freelancer, but also for what industry, all those things will change the skill sets you need, the kind of work you need to put into it, and the path you need to take. So you're gonna have to decide like what kind of art you want to do, what industry, if it's film, animation, games, all that kind of stuff. And if you want to go freelance, full time, if you want to do indie, AAA stuff, yeah. Do art schools only use Photoshop or do they allow other programs? Most art schools are not really going to be all that pissed off if you use other programs as long as you just do the assignment. But yes, most art schools have subscriptions to Adobe, which is Photoshop, Lightroom, After Effects, Premiere Pro. There just hasn't really been another alternative that's like official. People don't schools won't pay for Clip Studio because Clip Studio is to them not like an official professional program in the West. It is in Japan, but not here in the West. Other programs like Paint Tool Sai, a lot of cheaper programs are not professional, so they just don't have subscriptions to those. See you later. Thank you for coming. And yeah, feel free to join us next time whenever you're free. Do I stream often? I try to stream every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific Coast Standard Time. Up until around 10 or 11, typically 10 Pacific Coast Standard Time. Peach is doing good. I actually showed off some Peach pictures earlier today. She is doing good. I'm a little worried that, like, when I inevitably move out next year from where I'm currently living, the other cat that Peach is, like, there are two cats in the house, and Peach has kind of like a sort of younger sister, older sister thing with the other cat. And that's my roommate's cat. So when I inevitably move out, Peach is gonna lose their kind of like other, you know, friend, partner cat. And I'm worried that she might get really lonely. So I'm gonna have to figure out if I want to get a second cat, potentially my boyfriend getting a second cat or a dog or something like that, so that Peach can have a friend. Because both he and I work at home, like, or from home, but we do work, so I feel bad when she doesn't have anyone to play with, and I hope that when I move, she's not gonna feel, I don't know, brokenhearted. She is 5. She's 5. Yeah, she might be okay being alone, but I don't know. I'd like her to have a friend. I was just like you. Well, rather, my apartment didn't really allow it, and then my upstairs neighbors moved in and they had, like, a cat. So, my landlord was like, well, I guess you guys are now allowed to have cats. Just get pet insurance or whatever. Not pet insurance, just like renter's insurance. So we finally were able to get cats. And I am very thankful. But that also makes looking for a new apartment kind of hard because I have to make sure that they allow for animals. You. I also like my chibi. I'm hoping that I'll get the time at some point to give her an animation, more of an animation. Like, cause like I actually want her to talk when I talk, and also like I don't know, potentially cycle through animations and stuff. But I don't really have the time right now to do that, unfortunately. Yeah, she's dispensing them. Does she have a tail? She does have a tail. I'm so glad I asked. And then answered myself. It is easy. I have set it up before, but I just don't have another image for her for when she's talking that also still has her blinking and stuff like that, and I just need to set that up. I think it's literally called like Discord reactive images or something. Okay. I'm going to assume Noblematic. quality sketch. Now that you've got some months behind the Class 101 course, how do you feel about it? It's fine. Like, I think it definitely taught me a lot of things in terms of like what I can potentially do when it comes to like scripting, editing videos and stuff like that. And I stand by the fact that it is currently my current process for stuff, and it's the most authentic like collection of my thoughts currently. That is to say though, in the months that I've kind of like, I grew so much while making it that I've done a lot of growing since making it as well. So I feel like there are some videos that I feel like I would change or edit a little bit, that I would want to kind of expand upon, but I'd just be fixing that class until like the end of my time, basically. So I'm happy that it's out. I'm happy that it is where it is, and you know, it was really tough, but I am happy to move on with it, you know? Like, the next time I make a course, it'll only be that, but potentially better made or potentially more well-rounded. So it can only go forward from here, really. So I'm glad that I've had the experience of making it, and I appreciate all the skills it's given me, because now I can actually think about like, oh, do I want to start making videos in a bigger capacity? It's kind of it's pretty demanding stuff, scripting, recording, editing videos, and I'm not really the kind of person that like thrives when making that kind of stuff. It's pretty difficult for me, but it's a cool skill set to have now. One that I appreciate being able to say that I've experienced, so. What pose should I put this in? Yeah, I'm proud of myself for like learning how to edit videos and writing scripts and doing all that stuff. Like, I'm proud of myself for learning all of that on the job. So, and if it can help anyone, then it's all worth it. I'm glad. I'm glad people find it helpful and useful. That's all I can really hope for, really. Yeah, this might be, but we'll see. We will also personally contact you with your commission, but yeah, you can see some of the ones that have already been done on Discord. Terminology's weird. There are some people that like use really specific terms, and then there are places where they don't use that kind of terminology. So it's definitely interesting, but you know, if you take the words that the kind of like, I don't know, these things exist. People have different names for them. I call them pitch decks and stuff like that. And people, if you use that terminology around professionals, they'll definitely understand what you mean. But yeah, terminology is really strange, and you don't learn what a lot of these mean until you've met people that are very like wordy in that way. Um, like when I was just starting school, a lot of people talked about like having analogs for things. Um, and I went to school for game art, so it was very much about concept. And I was like, I don't know what this means. Like, what do they mean by analog? Because I knew analog is in like old stuff, the classic stuff, the retro shit or whatever. And when it comes to analog in the terms of like a concept perspective, it's having sourced, it's like the source object or era or image. It's like when a certain concept has an analog, it means you can find that concept represented somewhere else. So it's like how like in fighting games, there's what is it, like a shoto? A shoto is like a terminology in fighting games of a very specific type of fighting style and type of character build. And you can find examples of that character build in other fighting games with different names. Like Mario from Super Smash Bros. Is controversially a shoto, which is based on Ryu from the original Street Fighter. And they're basically just middle of the line classic hero fighters. This is the main fighter that is average on all fronts, and has a very specific specialty. And so you have an analog for a character like Mario and Super Smash Bros. In a character like Ryu. Different other types of analogs are like genres. So you could say that if you were to make like a Metroidvania type game and you did it with a kind of gothic spin, you know, like Castlevania is a well, actually, I shouldn't use examples from things that I don't know anything about. Well, okay, like Soulsborne games. If you look at a game that is very gothic or very you know, it has the same idea as any of the Soulsborne games, which is like you know, bosses, exploring the map, all that stuff, you find analogs in the previous iteration of that. And I didn't know what that word meant until someone explained it to me, and I'm like, why do you have a word for this? But turns out it's actually pretty useful when talking about concept. Eyes dark? I don't know. Oh, neat. Yeah, my partner got really into fighting games for a little bit, and so like when he was into it, I also watched a lot of fighting game related videos, and so I learned quite a bit about like the culture behind the games and like how those games are made, despite the fact that I will never in my life play a fighting game. but it's really interesting. Yeah, I think this is one of League of Legends skin. I'm doing Emiphy. It is set. I don't know which skin this is, but good night, Luna. Thank you for coming. Would you recommend someone going to a college for art, game art, or learning on your own through online classes? How much weight does a degree have? The degree itself does not really matter when it comes to getting jobs like with like a team. But if you want to work overseas or you want to work as a teacher potentially, having a degree is very helpful and important. I'd say if it's just from a perspective of like learning, ultimately it depends on what your needs are as an artist at the time that you're considering college. If you would benefit from having an environment where you're around other artists and you're learning with teachers who can help you personally, and you kind of want that college environment to grow up a little bit more before you go off and go do adult things and are thrust into the world of the rest of your life, then college I think is actually a really good option for those types of people. That's kind of where I was personally, and even though I didn't finish college, I still felt like I got a lot out of college and I don't regret the time that I spent there. But if you're someone that kind of can feel like you can do all that and you don't really thrive in a classroom environment, learning online is not a terrible idea, and it's honestly a lot easier now given that a lot of artists are getting into arts education and making arts educational content. So I'd say if that is, depending on who you are and what position you're in, because either it's financial or personal, like things that would bar you from doing actual arts education, accredited arts education, you don't need to do it if you don't want to. As far as like actual industry things, beyond HR and again stuff like going and working internationally or working as a teacher, Most teams do not really care whether or not you went to college, what degree you have. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because a degree doesn't really promise a certain level of artist. So they're still going to look at your portfolio. That's still going to be the main reason why they hire you or don't hire you. So if you're worried about whether or not a degree will impede you from getting a job or will be the reason you get a job, it won't. And I should know. I don't even have a college on my resume that I send out to people. Discord or email is better, but I feel like, did I not send it to you? Hold, let me see. When was this made? I might not have put it in the Discord channel, so yeah, just contact me personally and tell me where you sent the message. Man, League of Legends skins are so incredibly convoluted. I need to get like up close and personal with each and every one of them because I have no idea what any of these pieces look like. Okay, I need to look at this. I need to look at the 3D model. The 3D model is gonna save me right now. See, he has a mullet. Oh god, his collar? Oh yeah, Toja also has access to my commissions folder. Forgot. It should be one from January, I think. Yeah, because I've done another commission for Chisagi last year. Oh, thank God, the artist included a turnaround. Bless. Now I need to enhance. Rockstar, hello. Thank you, Braku. Do you have a place where you list your prices for commissions? Curious about the cost of personal full color character commissions for D&D and such. I don't really have them publicly listed. Let me see. So I did set up a page like ages ago. It's private, as in like you can't find it unless you have like a link to it necessarily, but and I really don't do personal stuff anymore, but if you want to look at it you can. But I don't, again, I very rarely open for them. But I set this up ages ago, so you're free to look at it if you want to. Nope, this is a League of Legends character. Honestly, like, I think about potentially making art, like drawing my own Final Fantasy XIV character, but I'll be honest, I really don't want to draw the armor from 14. It makes me deeply upset. Thinking about having to, like, grab screenshots of it. So I think I'm just gonna have to, make my own armor if I ever draw her, because I really don't. I don't wanna. I don't like drawing things that require, like, in my personal time, I don't like drawing things that require a ton of, like, references. If I'm drawing something for myself, it best be coming off the dome. I know there is. I hate drawing other people's designs, if that makes any sense, if I'm gonna be drawing something for myself. If it's just, like, a commission or, like, a job thing, I don't really care. But, like, if I'm gonna draw something for myself, I'd just rather make clothes for him, you know? I don't really wear the modern clothes in 14. Mainly because I just don't have any that I've crafted or found. But yeah, I don't know. I just much rather like design my own clothes for them, but then it kind of defeats the purpose of like, oh yeah, this character is wearing like certain kinds of armor or whatever. But I'm probably just gonna do it anyway, because fuck it. Oh, real world clothes. I'd still, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably, yeah, I could do that. I think I personally prefer to see Final Fantasy 14 characters in like fantasy clothing. I just don't like drawing fantasy clothing that's from the game. You get that armor. I believe in you. Rexia, hello! How are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. I'm rarely on Twitter, so maybe that's why. What non-art hobby stuff do you do to decompress? I play games sometimes. I watch YouTube videos. I've picked up building Gundam, but specifically only Neon Genesis Evangelion EVAs. Speaking of which, I got a new Gunpla, although it's not technically a Gunpla because I didn't build it. However, I did have to switch out some pieces, so I'm gonna consider it one. But I need to show you guys because it's so cool and it glows in the dark. Here, I'm just gonna copy paste it into a new one. Look at him. Ignore what's happening back here. Ignore all of these things. Yeah, look at him. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's also the wrong one. Why won't it save? I just don't want to show it to you guys. Anyways, do I have a picture of it glowing in the dark? I don't, but I can take one of it right now. Hold on. It's... Hold on, I need to close this. Oh, my computer light is preventing me from showing it to you in its actual glow-in-the-dark glory. But the green parts glow in the dark. That's all you really need to know. And I love him. I have two more things I want to build, and then I'll have like a collection of them. Yeah, I have a little light up mechanical keyboard with, it's like a gradient from light purple to pastel pink. It's a very cute color keycaps, and they glow slightly. Oh, cute. I am challenged. I can't do this upside down. Bye, Chisagi. Thank you for coming. Do I sit or stand when drawing? I sit, although getting a standing desk would be really cool. I definitely want one because I tend to sit cross-legged and it's not very good for my knees. Oh, it's so cute. I like it. I know sometimes these sketches end up being the liner, but there's still gaps in between. Do you go back and forth filling them in before coloring or not? I usually don't fill them in. I just fill them in when necessary. So, usually when I'm base coloring, I'll put it in Clip because Clip Studio has a closed gap feature that is really useful, especially for someone like me that doesn't really like doing clean line art. So I'll tend to do that. But I only close gaps when necessary. But sometimes I'll just hand paint it as opposed to like filling it with a bucket tool. Yeah, it is kind of sad. Again, an argument for having the computer version, but I wish it wasn't a subscription-based thing. I use in hold on, let me look it up. I believe I use an LG 4K monitor that's like 20. Is it that big? 20. I actually don't know what size this is. 27 inch? Less than that? It's a 4K monitor for sure. It is an expensive one, is all I really know. And the only way I can afford it is because my work sent it to me. But yes. Now that I've gone 4K though, it's gonna be really hard to go back to not 4K, so I might just have to save up to get one myself. I wish I drew faster. I used to draw so much faster when we last did a charity thing. I've gotten so much slower this year from, I think, a lack of practice. I'm working a lot. I know! I used to draw so fast. I don't know what the heck happened. And also, like, I don't know, I don't necessarily like my art more because I draw slower, so. Yeah. I don't know. I think I just been burnt out this year. More so than I was the other years. We get it done. Do I give him a bubble butt? Alright, I just follow a ton of like LGBT like artists that give all of their guys like super snatched waists and a bubble butt. And so now whenever I see like a guy in a drawing a guy in a certain position, I'm just like, should I? His waist is too short though. Gotta lengthen that. Offer a piece to AGDQ this year? What's that? Winter speed running charity event? Oh. Wait, I didn't know artists participated in that. I will definitely actually have to consider that because I don't think we're going to be able to do a charity thing this year because I'm going to want to finish these, but I would be super down to do that actually. So do people usually like make art of the games that are being ran for the event? What games do they usually play? I assume the only ones I'm familiar with are like, or that I actually watch, are like Breath of the Wild speedruns. Oh, interesting. How did that work? That is insane, but that makes sense. Yeah, most serious OSU players use drawing tablets. It prevents them from getting, like, serious carpal tunnel. Oh my gosh, yeah. Take care of yourself. I hope you, can get that fixed. Good luck. Thank you for coming. I think that's the most intense exit from a stream that we've ever had. Yeah, I definitely would not have acted that way if my shoulder was dislocated. That was a level of restraint I don't think I would have exhibited. Like, if I stub my toe, the day's over. You know, that's the kind of energy I operate at. It's like, oh, I am mildly inconvenienced. Taking a mental health day. But they were definitely a trooper, because, yeah, they were perfectly calm. Cannot imagine doing that, given the circumstances. Yes, Peach? Hi. You want pets? Peachy. Miss Peach. Tifa says hello. She left. She came in just to yell at me and then she left. Yeah, it's definitely... I definitely need to revisit muscles a little bit. I feel like I don't remember them as well as I should. But it's okay for now. Is there anything else I missed? I know he has things on his back, but I don't know what they look like. He's got a whole ass head on his back. Okay, well, we're not doing that. I'm kidding, we're gonna do that for a little bit. I'll kind of do it. Then we're gonna cover it up with a braid. No, you can join the Discord if you want. I mainly use it just to let people know if I'm streaming or not. Oh, I keep hitting tab. That's why I was like. Okay, cool. So that will probably be it for me tonight, because it's been a long week. But we are gonna raid someone, so let me go find a person to raid. But yes, so does anyone have any like last minute questions that you want to ask me that I can cover before we all, you know, part ways for tonight? Because if not, then otherwise I will see you all next week. But yeah, let me see if I can find someone for us to raid that doesn't have a ton of streamers right now, or viewers, not streamers. I'm looking. What is a good site beside to learn anatomy structure? There's plenty of YouTubers on YouTube. People on YouTube who teach anatomy, and there's a lot of like pose drawing resources. If you look up anything like figure drawing resources, figure drawing online, you'll find websites people have made that allow you to like look through figure drawing references, and they can help simulate like a figure drawing class. But if you're looking for people to actually teach you figure drawing or anatomy or anything like that, I'd recommend actually going and looking at resources people have put out about it, because there's quite a few, and people have really gotten down the whole like teaching anatomy down to kind of like a science. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. Let's do this person. We do some people. Okay, cool. So that'll be it for me tonight. Thank you everyone so much for coming. What experiences you got after leaving social media? I really like your philosophy on social media in a healthy way. Just quickly, when you get into social media, just set boundaries for yourself. Like, you know, if getting too deep into social media and kind of like that toxic part of it is really just about putting too much of your own personal identity, personal self-worth and stuff like that staked on people's opinions or social media's kind of reaction to your art. A really good way to deal with it, I think, is just to see it as a way to share your art with people, but not really depend too much on it to give you validation or to give you a sense of accomplishment or self-worth. Really allow your art to be the focus of what you care about, of what you're working on, and, you know, take time away from social media to really just look at your own stuff. Don't spend all of your time scrolling through Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or anything like that. Take time where you're just looking at your own stuff, only working on your own things, using artists as resources as opposed to judging yourself or competing with them. That's kind of how I've chosen to approach social media, and that's kind of how I've chosen to utilize it. It's a resource. It's not a place where I am trying to, I guess, like, oh.